Okay, well, hello everyone, and welcome to this little lesson on how to paint a raven in acrylic. And just going to be showing you on this little 6x6 gesso board. And it's one of these ones I'll just show you quickly that I get with the um, wood canvas. And you have to get them either, I think, Amazon or jerry'sartorama.com. And so I think I got these from Jerry's. So, but I like them because I kind of like the wood edge on them, and so I decided to get some more. And they just look good on the wall. You know, you just hang them up, and they kind of stick off the wall a bit, and they just look really cute. If you have a little collection of bird paintings, it's a good idea. So, I've got out some black, cobalt blue. This is ultramarine blue, sap green, cad yellow medium, light, some orange, and some cad red, burnt sienna, and some dioxazine violet, and some titanium white. I won't probably be using all those colors for sure because I just had this out because I was doing another video. That's why it's a little bit messy, but I thought I'll save the paint and just go for it using this messy palette. So I like to use what I like painting the ravens because it's kind of simple, a simple palette. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this black, and you can sort of map out where you want to map out where you want to give room for everything to fit. So I'll sort of just put a little bit of some drawing in, and like I'll put in this line for that ground. And the original, I'm copying a painting of mine. The original I did was on it was a large painting, so I have to fit all that into a little, you know, painting, which is going to be interesting. But it can be done. Somebody wanted one for their family member who isn't feeling well, so I said I would paint it for them. So I'm just kind of putting in that sketch, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Mainly, I really want to get the right sizing, and I can always cut in with my background color to resize it even more. So if it's too fat looking, or my birds tend to be a little on the chubby side, but that's okay. So just kind of get it in as close to what you see as you can, and then you can always resize it. Okay. I like to get a little cobalt blue in that black mix right away so that I can put in those lighter feathers that are catching the light sort of up there. Okay. And I'm not using any medium or anything. Um, this is just the paint. Just putting a little bit of that darker paint around there. Okay, so now that I've kind of blocked in everything, I can start to work on some of the details. Crow, or sorry, the raven. And I haven't had enough coffee yet early today. So I'm going to use this little brush I was using for my other bird video. This is the Royal Lanicle, and it's one of those angle brushes. So I like it when they're new, especially because then you could use the little pointy part to really get the details in. So I'm going to just add a little white to that mixture so I get sort of a gray color for the beak. Add a little blue in there and sort of add that detail. And I want to make sure I get the eye in there right. I always think that if you get the eye in correctly, then the rest of it comes a little bit easier. So you want to make sure when you're painting a bird, you really look at where their beak lines up with the eye. Some birds like seagulls and shorebirds, their eyes are a little higher than their beak, but for the most part, they sort of wind up kind of right where the beak separates, the eyes sort of right in the middle there. So I try to pay attention. A lot of my early paintings, I'd get all done and I'd feel really happy, and then I would look carefully and see that the eye was like either way too high or way too low. So I'll use a bit of that light gray just to block in where the outline of the eye is going to go, and then I'm going to go in later with some darker paint there. And I'm using this paint that I was given from a company called Meaden Art Supplies. And so I'm kind of trying them out again and seeing how they work. Best is golden, and then I use these basic brand for when I'm painting something really large and I don't care, I don't need the quality to really shine. Um, when it's like a spatula painting or something where I'm just really using a lot of paint, I try to go with that. So once you get everything kind of in there, it looks pretty good. Then you can start adding more detail. So I'll go and get some more black, and I'm just gonna now kind of cut into that little eye shape that I have there, paying attention to the ravens, the eye. And just sort of darkening around the eye of the raven. And you can see I'm leaving that little gray bit there. And just dabbing those feathers in on the beak there, sort of leaving some of that gray showing through. The hard part about doing the video is when I'm looking down, it's hard to get the right kind of perspective because I'm looking at it, trying to paint with this canvas face down. It's a little bit tricky because you get a little glare from the paint, so it's hard to see. So I'm just going to block in some of that shadow and I like to leave some of that underpaint there. So I'm just using kind of the underpaint as sort of, uh, yeah, I'm leaving some of it for the lighter highlights there. Okay, and then just get a little more darker. Okay, so now I'm going to take a break from that and I'll go and get larger brush again and get some white and the black and some of that cobalt and some of that other blue. And you can just kind of add a little burnt sienna in there just to mix up sort of a gray tone. And then I'm gonna just kind of add some lighter notes to that ground. And just some burnt sienna and cobalt and white will make a nice kind of warm gray. And now it's where you can, sort of, start to shape the crow by using that background. Really don't like that blue that I mixed in. Whatever that is, it's not ultramarine blue. So, and sort of mix in, use the brush to sort of cut in some of that feather backgrounds, cutting into, make this look feathery, sorry. And I'll switch to a little smaller brush and get in there into the details a little bit more. And not mess up my crow too much. So I'm gonna get some white and a little bit more of that cobalt, and because I want to be careful around the beak here, because I want to make sure I don't have to redraw it all. You can see how fast the acrylic dries a bit, and then it gets so dark when you're when you're layering like that. You can really see you gotta go lighter or just do more layers. And just sort of cut out a little bit of that background through those two little legs there. Just kind of dabbing some of that paint kind of gives it almost a feeling like the ground has got rain on it or something if you do this. Put a little bit of blue. Mix up a little bit of a darker mix for kind of underneath the raven here. And just keep kind of filling in there. And now I can go back to my smaller brush here and kind of go back and add some more details here. The paint you can see has dried and gotten kind of flat, and it kind of dried and it looks like lost some of the different values. So that's normal when you're working with acrylic, but I think especially I feel when you're working with a little bit, if you're working on something like a bird, it's better to, I would say, I'm just speaking from experience, I would choose my probably to go over it with my golden black. I feel like this black from Meeden has a lot of, it's almost like a dark browny color when it dries, but it looks black, but it has sort of like a brown undertone to it. But it's working. So now I'll go and want to add more of another layer of that lighter gray to the beak and everything, so I can see some of the highlight again. It kind of dried a little on the dark side. Some more. light on it. And go with something a little less light. And I want to get might have to do it a few times till you get it to the right value. Somehow water dripped onto my canvas there. So then I'll go and get some that black and sort of soften that edge a little. And you can sort of use the edge of your brush to put in some feathers. And I'll go and get more that. You can kind of go back and forth, just sort of till you get it the way you like it. And just adding a little bit of a darker outline, just really carefully shading in around the outside of the beak there. I want that, I don't want to go too far in because I want, that light part to show. So sometimes I have to go back and forth until I get it just right. Get a little more light on that beak yet. Okay. Now I think I might have just need to kind of make the beak a little smaller. I just realized how large it is compared to the size of the rest of the bird. It's just way too big, so yeah, it's got to be a lot smaller. I'm so used to painting them this size that I didn't realize till just now it was like massive beak. And so I'm gonna have to make the eye a little smaller too. Wow, was that large? My bad there. Yeah, this little bird, this is this was a giant beak I had on this guy. So my bad. We were a little out of proportion there. So I'm just gonna trim that one down and probably have to shrink the eye too. Sadly, I really like that eye. So now I have the challenge of kind of resizing, the resizing challenge. And so I'm going to want to cut into the neck a little and really get that a little smaller. Okay. So the sizing's a bit better now, but now I gotta just make sure I get the rest of the drawing correct. See, as you wake up your artistic brain, which I'm filming this in the morning, so my brain wasn't awake in the first place, but now that I am awake and I saw that, you know, you sometimes don't start painting your best until you're almost done your painting, and then you go, oh, wow, was that way off? But better late than never. And I really liked everything about that, but it was just, it really was way too big for the size and scale of this painting. And I knew it would be a challenge scaling down uh, the painting because I'm so, usually the smallest I go on a raven is, you know, an 8x8. 6x6 is really, I feel like for a bird that's this large, it's a lot harder to get the right, you know, the right feeling. I like 6x6 is perfect for a little chickadee or a hummingbird, but I'm doing this because someone wants it on 6x6. So now you get to see me do it twice. Okay. I'm gonna leave that for now and let that paint around the beak dry a bit because I find if I go and it's sort of blending in with the last, just gonna trim the eye a little bit and kind of re-put in the eye, the little eyelid a bit so that it's smaller. Yeah. And now I can start adding, I'm gonna leave that for now and come back to it and I'll start adding some of those. I use a little bit of cobalt, black and white, to create sort of my own kind of bluish gray color. And I'll go and add some little bits of that to the legs and everything just to give them a little dimension. And some of these feathers too, I'll use that kind of bluey gray mix to really start to build some of the highlight. And a lot of my ravens, the brush strokes are kind of, I like to make them sort of messy and abstract. Step it up a little notch with some more white in there and put in some more. And then you can put in some finer ones using the edgier brush. And then I'll go back with the black now that I've got a bunch of those lighter ones in there. I'll go back in with some black and darken and also separate some of those strokes. I'll put in some black in there. sort of go in there and re-put in those feathers that go into the background here just a little bit. Like some of those into that kind of almost like a puddle that he's standing on. Just adding some more of those light grays, and I can kind of add a little bit more of everything to the ground there. Right. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and want to add a little bit more of those gray beak feathers back. I forgot about those. It kind of shapes the beak a bit too when you do that. And then I'm gonna adjust the background a little because I want that light to really show around the beak. Now that it's dry, I think I can go in and kind of shape out the neck a bit. I really want wherever you want the eye to be drawn to, you can kind of add a little bit more of a lighter value, and next to the darker value, it'll show up and really bring out that area. And I just make kind of abstract and messy brush strokes for this because I like that feeling. And down here, I kind of just really loosen it up, at the end there. Get that really to pop out. You got to put that kind of light next to the dark. And then you can blend back some of that darker, just use a little bit of the darker gray to sort of, kind of mix in some other colors. So you just kind of keep playing with it until you get the background that you like. And sometimes it happens really easy. And then when I'm trying to kind of do a painting, like rarely, but if I have to do something that someone wants in a smaller scale like this, it's not as fun because I'm trying to mimic something I've already done. And so I like to just do it, and however it turns out is kind of however it turns out. It's supposed to look kind of abstract in the background. So it's way easier to just do it the first time. But when you're trying to kind of mimic something, it gets really tricky to get the same mood and everything. So I generally don't do that sort of thing, but because of the situation, I'm doing it for this person. Well, I think I would just, if I was painting this and I wanted to film all the work, it would just take so long because of this, how much little bits of detail I'm putting in, and then it kind of dries dark and I have to go over it. So I think you get the idea sort of what this kind of, how to kind of do your own abstract crow. And I hope that you learned from my mistake to take a little more time and make sure the scale is okay of, what you're painting. I think that was a good lesson though. And I really I like how it turned out at the end. So I hope you have fun with this one. And I didn't know crows would be so popular when I started painting, and then now it's become a real thing, painting crows. Never would have thought it, or ravens, I mean. I never would have thought it, but if you live in the Pacific Northwest, which I did, they are actually quite beautiful, the ravens, and they're very interesting, and they're very smart. If you feed them peanuts, they'll come to your window and remind you if you haven't put them out in the morning, which is kind of funny. They're that smart. So, and then if you learn about them, they are very smart and they're very unique. They're not like, the kind of crows you see. They're like almost more like an eagle, how kind of majestic they are when you see them. They're quite large, and they play together and they kind of squawk at each other like they're having a conversation during the day. So it's really kind of funny. Well, I think that about does it. And I'm gonna go and um, let it dry, and then I will see if there's anything else I need to do. But I'm pretty happy with that, and I hope you enjoy this lesson and that you can paint along and share it with a friend. And I look forward to teaching you in the next lesson. Goodbye, everyone.